All right, let's dive into a pretty wild idea today. The idea that the reality you and I experience every single day isn't quite what it seems. We're going to unpack a framework that suggests every single thing, from a new idea to a major life challenge, is basically a structured packet of information, a packet that you can actually learn to decode. So, to get our heads around this, we have to start with this bombshell from cognitive scientist Donald Hoffman. He says that our reality is basically a user interface, like the desktop on your computer. You see an icon for a file, you click it. You don't see the millions of lines of code or the transistors flipping inside the machine. The icon is just a useful shortcut. Hoffman's theory is that everything we perceive works that way. It's like we're all wearing a headset that's designed to help us survive, not to show us the raw, objective truth of what's out there. Which leads to a pretty huge question, right? If we're living inside this giant, complex interface, where the heck is the user manual? How are we supposed to navigate all of this if we don't even know the fundamental rules of the game? And that lack of a manual leads us straight into our first big problem. We can call it the trap of truthfulness. It's what happens when we're so deep in the interface that we forget we're even using one at all. So here's the crisis. We get stuck on the surface level. We're constantly consuming what this framework calls the peel, the shiny icon on the screen, and we mistake that packaging for the actual prize inside. A perfect example is the whole light bulb myth. We think of innovation as this random aha moment. A light bulb just magically pops on over someone's head. That's the icon, right? But that view completely misses the real story, the years of work, the failures, the network of ideas that actually made it possible. We're essentially eating the bitter packaging and then wondering why we're not getting any nourishment. Now, this framework gives us some really precise language to talk about this. On one side, you've got a SIG, which means truthfulness. Think of this as the peel. It's the surface level fact. For instance, if you break your leg, it's factually true that it's broken and it hurts like crazy. That's a SIG. But that's just the container. On the other side, you have al-haq, the truth. This is the juice. It's the hidden code, the deep, nourishing lesson, like the humility or patience you might learn because of that broken leg. The trap is getting so focused on the pain of the peel that we never get to the juice. All right, so if that's the problem, what's the fix? Well, this is where we finally get our hands on that user manual we've been looking for. It comes from a framework by Labib Mago, and it completely reframes how we look at ideas and experiences. The central idea here is that ideas aren't just these random, lucky flashes. Nope. They are idea packets. They're structured units of information and they're transmitted through a system, kind of like how data packets travel across the internet. This means innovation isn't about getting lucky. It's a transmission that you can learn to receive. And every single one of these packets has the same basic anatomy. First, there's the source. That's the energy and the intent behind it all. Then you have the container, which is the peel we were just talking about. It's the physical form, the words, the product, the truthfulness of it. And finally, you get to the most important part, the payload. That's the juice, the core essence, the actual truth that can fuel real growth. So what's the point of knowing all this? Well, it unlocks what might be the most essential skill for the future, reality abstraction. It's the ability to stop just staring at the icons on your screen and to start seeing the code running underneath. It's a massive shift from being a passive consumer of your reality to becoming an active decoder of it. Okay, the theory is cool, but how do we actually do this? How do we put it into practice? That brings us to the really practical part, the pomegranate method. You can think of this as the official how-to guide for reality abstraction. And the whole method is built on this really powerful, kind of simple analogy. Imagine any event, any piece of information you receive is like a pomegranate. It's got this tough, bitter outer peel. You'd never just bite into it, right? The only way to get to the good stuff, the juicy, nourishing seeds inside, is to apply pressure. You have to press it to get the juice. And this isn't just some abstract concept. It comes from a real-world origin story. An event, like that broken leg, is reframed as a governance interrupt. It's the system delivering an information packet directly to you. Now you have a choice. You can just experience the peel, all the pain, the frustration, the inconvenience, or you can choose to press that event to extract the juice, the lesson, the reason for a forced slowdown, that opportunity to recalibrate your life. So here's the playbook, step by step. First, you receive the packet, whatever it is, without immediately judging it. Second, you examine it. Look at the container, what's inside. Third,
And this is the key. You press it. You apply cognitive force to separate that valuable juice from the noisy peel. Fourth, you collect that extracted truth, that al-haq. And finally, you share that juice because what you've learned can now become valuable to your entire network.
Okay, so think about this for a second. What happens when it's not just you doing this, but a whole bunch of people? What if entire communities or even whole societies start operating this way? Well, the argument is that it leads to a fundamentally new reality, what's called the agency economy. And the difference is night and day. We're currently living deep inside the attention economy, where the scarce resource is your attention, your eyeballs. You are the product, and the whole goal is to capture you, to keep you scrolling. The agency economy completely flips the script. The scarce resource is now agency, your actual capability to do things. You're not a product, you're a sovereign node in a network. And the goal isn't to capture you, it's to empower you. So, how do you even measure success in this new economy? Well, there's a new metric for that, the agency delta. It's pretty simple. It just measures the change in your capacity to act. A social media app that gets you addicted gives you a negative agency delta. It actually steals your agency. But a tool that teaches you a new skill, that gives you a positive agency delta. And this is the whole point. In this new economy, real value is only created by distributing agency, not by hoarding it. But, and this is a big but, to actually do any of this, to operate in this new economy, you need the right internal toolkit. The framework calls this foundation ASM. The best way to think about it is as your own personal cognitive operating system. It's your worldview, your mental models. It's the pressing tool itself. It's the machinery inside you that allows you to extract that juice from the peel of your own life experiences. And really, that's what this all boils down to. This whole framework is basically a declaration of independence from the idea that we're just victims of randomness. It's a profound shift in perspective, from seeing yourself as a leaf blown around by the winds of chance to seeing yourself as an architect, actively building your own reality. So the real question we should be asking ourselves changes completely. We need to stop asking, how do I get lucky, or why is this awful thing happening to me? We need to start asking a much, much more powerful question. How well can I press this experience for the lesson it contains? And when you do that, you stop playing a game of chance and you start playing a game of skill. And that, my friends, changes absolutely everything.